Ladies and gentlemen, your hosts, Michael Wilkes, Angel Ortiz, Dr. Chad, and Sam La Cavera. Go check out beardedbrowns.com and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, everybody? What is up? It is the Bearded Browns podcast. Sam cannot be with us because I guess he's got better things to do, like put AC in his house. I mean,
that's important.
Yeah, that's very important. That's why I'm being sarcastic.
He's getting windows and an new air conditioning unit, central air.
Yeah, he needs it. And if you're in the Northeast Ohio, where we're at, well, 2 to 3 of us are at, you're going to need that AC. As you can see, I have a hoodie on because my wife has it blasting, and we're about 69 degrees in my house. So I'm like, dude, it is cold in this room specifically. Nonetheless, we are live today. We're going to be talking about a lot of fun things. If you're into stats, charts, facts, numbers, and a lot of stuff like that, you're gonna love this show. Specifically, if you're into Joe Flacco and if you're into Sanders conspiracy theories, we're gonna hit you up with some interesting stuff. So stay tuned. But one thing I do want to mention right now, there's a lot of talk about Andrew Berry, specifically from Jason Lord recently, and Michael Bush from the Cleveland Sports Podcast. They were kind of like talking about him a little bit. This show is in a couple months, and maybe in a month or so, we're going to talk about Andrew Berry's draft and his free agent pickups. We're going to do it all in one show, and we're going to compare it to the division. And we're going to show you that maybe we're just being dramatic about all this, right? That's just my opinion. You guys may have a different opinion.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, so we haven't done it yet. From what I'm seeing, I think the over hate is over. It's over hate. But I understand the hate, but at the same time, that one, we're gonna have AB's everything from draft picks to trades to every transaction he made, and we're gonna try our best to compare it to every single team in our division and see how he's matched up with the team in the division, and I bet you he's not the worst one. Nonetheless, let's start the show. We're going to get into it right now, the third down conversion graphic. We're going to talk about third down conversions last year, or over the years with Andrew Berry, Kevin specifically, and the interception graphic that we're going to show here. First, we're going to start off with this third down conversion rates. And as you can see, those numbers are going in a way we don't want them to go, right, guys? Usually when the arrow points down, you don't want to go that way. You want the arrow to point up. In 2020, it was at 44.9%. In 2021, it was at 39.2. 2022, 38.1. 2023, 31.6. In 2024, last year, 29.5%. That is a third down conversion rate that stinks. And they run parallel to how horrible the defense looked, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot at the end of last season about the defense speaking out about the Browns basically not being able to stay on the field and control the ball. And we're going to cover 2 graphics that both have a lot to do with that. One on interceptions, the other one on third down conversions. And I think, like, you look at this team over the same. We obviously had a change in coaching staff last year for offensive coordinator, line coach, and a couple of the other coaches. But for the most part, this has been under Kevin Stefanski and the base of his system. Regardless of the coaching changes, we've steadily fallen every single year. So I directly, when I first saw this, immediately attributed this to quarterback play, because in my head, uh, I think I just look at the quarterback that was at the helm for most of each of these seasons, or the lack of any consistency at the quarterback, and as that got worse and worse, our third down percentage got worse and worse. But I think there's other factors to that.
What is that?
That was my fault. Go ahead. Rookie mistake. It's my first time running a show, being behind the mic. My fault. I thought my phone was turned down, but it wasn't. Nonetheless, Mike, what is your opinion?
The dramatic drop is it shows the numbers show whether it be you can blame it on the offensive line, you can blame it on coordinators, you can blame it on whoever you want, but the numbers are there. I don't want to see that again this year. Hopefully 2025 coming into this year will be a whole new leaf, I guess. I don't want to see it go lower than 29.5. If we can go back to 38.1, maybe 39.2, I'm cool with that. But make it less, a lot less, please.
Yeah, a lot less. Yeah. One thing I'll say is this: that also too, if you look at that percentage drop, you would see that also. I wish what I should have done was the quarterback, running back one that we posted. Did we post that one? If not, I have to send it to you. Of the carries that we've had running, the percentage, the pass run ratio, you would see that the run ratio is significantly lower in 2023 and 2024, and that can contribute to why those specific numbers are lower. So I'm hoping that this year that number will be higher for that purpose alone, because you have, whether it's Flacco or whether it's whatever quarterback, will put us in a better position of first and second down, to put us in favorable positions to get that first down. Because a lot of times we're behind the sticks. Because if you want to get into more numbers, I got numbers about how our penalties were not friendly to us last year too, our penalty percentage.
Yeah.
So it was not favorable on offense in all aspects. So this number is just a little reflection of that. So I'm hoping
And
I should go up next year, because I do think our run game is going to be better.
yeah.
And I'm hoping that you have a veteran back there that knows where to put the ball and get you in a better place to get a first down.
And you brought up a good point there, because so I had attributed, of course, to the quarterback, because I'm just like I said, I immediately thought of like, oh, Baker's best year was 2020 with us. Then he was injured the next year and we had a drop. Then the next year was Jacoby, who was pretty good for most of the season, but not quite Baker, and we had a drop. And then the next year is when it started getting all over the place. And then, but you just pointed out the penalties, and so, some people jumped in on Facebook, and I always fall back to, like, if you have a quarterback, some of this other stuff gets better, like the penalties. But they brought up, like, the penalties, of course, are an issue, because if you start farther back, you end up with third down and longs. The running game is bad. So not only do you have rougher time on first and second down, you can't trust third and three like you used to be able to with Nick Chubb to just convert that. And you had Kareem Hunt, who somehow found a way to get 2 or 3 yards on every carry, no matter how plugged up the line was. So yeah, I would say this statistic is related to so many different things: from
Yeah.
quarterback to offensive line to running game to just bad execution and penalties. So this is the one thing that really kind of stands out as like a whole team offensive problem is here. And shout out to the conversation we had on Twitter, because people jumped in with a lot of statistics, and we covered a lot of things. The other thing I just wanted to point out before we move on is that 2020 season, we were at what, 44.7 conversion rate. Last year, that would have been 7th in the NFL, behind the Buccaneers, Chiefs, Ravens, Lions,
Philly.
Bengals, and Commanders, all
Oh,
teams that had really good, balanced offenses, or great quarterback play last year. So
yeah, it's interesting that Philly wasn't in there. I thought they would be up there.
we would have been just ahead of the Bills, 49ers, Cardinals, and Eagles.
Interesting. Interesting.
Hmm.
Next graphic is another depressing one, so just hold your tears. The
Angel, really
NFC
quick, what
Yes,
did you
sir.
do to your mic?
Nothing. Why?
Does it sound weird to you, Chad?
Does
Nope.
it sound weird?
Maybe it's just me.
Ask the
Go
listeners. It
on.
doesn't sound weird to me.
Hey, listeners, if my mic sounds weird, just share the stream. Um, yeah, let me know if it sounds weird. Next one is something that I know you guys probably are annoyed with me because I've been harping on this a lot during the off season is the interception ratio. Um, uh, turnover ratio that we've had an issue with steadily since 2020. And if you want to put up that graphic, this is the interception graphic that that a lot of you fans are going to hate. But I mean, this is just showing just little bits and pieces of just why we stunk so bad this past couple of years. 2020, listen to me. 2020, you had 8 interceptions. 8. Can you
That's
imagine a season
incredible.
in which you had single digit interception? This isn't counting fumbles or whatever, but this is just interceptions. This is just on your quarterback. 8
I mean,
in
Jameis Winston
2020.
had 4 in one game last year, right? Against the
Yeah,
Broncos. Like,
insane.
that's half of our season in 2020.
Insane to think in 2020 you had 8 interceptions. In 2021, you almost doubled that with 15, which, as you can see, that red dot, for those that are listening, sorry, but those that are watching, the red dot means you've gotten worse. And then obviously there's a yellow dot, meaning that you've gotten better. In 2022, you have 12. So you went 8, 12, 8, 15, and 12. And this is where you can see why this offense has struggled the last 2 years, and thank goodness for Flacco the last 5 games of 2023. If not, this would have been a lot worse. But 2023, you had 23 interceptions, which was the most in the NFL, the most. And then last year, you figured, hey, let me one up everybody and do this again with 23 interceptions, which is the most in the NFL. So if you want to total all that up right away, that's 64, 46. That's a lot of interceptions. I was going to try to do the math in my head, but they don't have enough
That's
time.
a ton.
That is a lot of interceptions in 4 years. You see,
And
this is an issue in
yeah.
general. It doesn't matter who's your quarterback. If you do not stop this, you're going to continue to suck on your offense. You
Well,
combine this with the third down percentage sucking, you no wonder why you average only 13, 14 points a game last year.
I agree to that all, but listen to this. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in one game last year, and they still won. So
Yeah,
defense obviously
but
showed
you
up in that
can't do
game.
that every game. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
know,
gonna
I know.
did
say
that every game.
I know, but we're averaging 2 interceptions a game, and we still can't win.
Yeah, when you want to bring up another point, when your defense doesn't know how to intercept or turn over the ball, that hurts you. So 2, and they give you 1 or 0, you're -2 every game going into
Yeah.
a game. That's unfair.
And we'll be posting a couple of these a week, and a big one should be turnover differential, because that's
Yeah.
a good point. Not only did we turn over the ball the most in the NFL last year, we were at the bottom in turning the ball over to our team. And so when you put those two things together, like, yeah, it's a good point that the Lions were able to kind of overcome that one game, but that does feel like a one game kind of thing. Like, the Lions generally protect the ball pretty well, and you're not going to win many games turning the ball over at the league high. And actually, just think about that, Mike. Like, Lions turned the ball over 5 times in one game, and the Browns still managed to lead the league in interceptions for the season.
Yeah.
Like that. Like,
It's
even with those giant crazy games, like, we found a way to still outdo them in turnovers. And this one does pretty much come down to the quarterback, because our wide receiver core last year, it isn't blowing anybody's mind, but we had 1,300 yards from Jerry Jeudy. We started the season with Amari Cooper on the team. People don't love him, but Elijah Moore was out there. Tillman had a couple of good games. It's not like we just had receivers tipping the ball up all over the place, or like we had a pile of receivers and tight ends that couldn't get open at all. This was just the quarterbacks were not delivering the ball to the right team. And so I think you look at the team now, and of course they did bring Joe Flacco back. And I know we joke a lot about Joe Flacco and his interception problems, but I think the one thing you can look at is Joe Flacco had an interception ratio last year of like 1.65, which means he threw 1.6 touchdowns or more for every interception he threw. Jameis Winston last year with us had
Negative,
an
right?
interception ratio of 1.1,
Yeah.
which means he threw an interception for basically every touchdown he threw. So that's so we had 2 turnover prone quarterbacks, but the one we had last year was tying his worst touchdown interception ratio ever. So like you absolutely cannot win with that kind of interception rate, and then also being last in the league in third down conversions. It means you're not
It's just
sustaining any drive.
horrible. Yeah.
You're either turning the ball over by downs or you're turning it over by interceptions, and so it's no wonder that the defense was so absolutely frustrated and had such a giant drop off last year.
And then
I
what
get
makes
that.
me
And this is going to make Angel extremely mad. So I know Kenny Pickett may work in Kevin Stefanski's offensive scheme, correct? Doesn't throw many
Maybe.
interceptions as of now, but he can't throw touchdowns. So what if he starts throwing
That's the problem.
interceptions and least touchdowns?
well,
I mean, his issue, Kenny Pickett's big issue, and like people are right. He's better protecting the ball. He doesn't throw many interceptions. But if you look at the numbers, he has to get much better at his touchdown interception ratio because he also has a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. Now, some of that was made up for the fact that Pittsburgh runs the ball a ton and could score on the ground. Hopefully, we can do the same. But I think even Kenny Pickett would tell you, I need to throw 1.5 to 2 touchdowns for every interception if we're going to be successful.
Yeah, and I'll add to the fact that when you have a lame offensive coordinator like Matt Canada who can't draw up schemes in the goal line, who isn't smart enough to trick the defenses know what you're going to do, and they know all he's going to do is run, or he's going to pass to the outlet guy in the corner route. Then you're limiting a guy who is limited. Like, I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is like an all-star. Kenny Pickett has limitations. What I'm saying is Kevin can untap him. Even though he knows he's limited, he's going to increase his strengths. So I think Kenny Pickett's touchdown ratio will increase here if given the opportunity.
Yeah.
Given the opportunity,
That's fair.
he's gonna have a tough matchup because Flacco's no slouch. He's 40 years old, but he's ahead of him right now, 100%. But again, when people argue about Kenny Pickett, I would say look at the offensive coordinator. You got to wash those 2 years away, and he's gotten better from his rookie year to his second year with his interception. So that's encouraging. He does need to score more touchdowns. I agree with that.
I think that it's reasonable to kind of be in the middle and say like, yeah, you have to have reasonable expectations for what Kenny Pickett is and what he can do. But I think if you're looking for a reason to just think Kenny Pickett can be better, it's that Kevin and Tommy Rees should be able to draw. Almost every major source that looks at this league seriously and analyzes this league thinks that Kevin Stefanski is a better play caller
than
than
Matt
Canada. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
why
Matt
Matt
that's
Canada's
global.
in the NFL.
I would be blown away if anybody didn't
Yeah.
agree with the fact that Kevin Stefanski can do more with a quarterback than Matt Canada did, but there's still going to be a ceiling. Like how good can he be? The goal is just better than what we are getting in the last 2 years and better than what Pittsburgh got out of Kenny Pickett.
Before we go on to this Flacco thing, I'll say one more thing, and I want to remind Browns fans. And Andrew Berry and Kevin both scouted Kenny Pickett while he was in Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh Panthers. They scouted him. They know what he can do well and what he cannot do well. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if he looks better here than in Pittsburgh because they're going to put him in a position to be successful and not just run him out there and say, just throw the ball in the corner. It's not going to be, it's going to be more complicated than that.
I also agree with your early analysis, Angel, that he was not used on rollouts ever, and he's a pretty mobile quarterback.
Very mobile.
Kevin did really well rolling out with Baker Mayfield, who's not known as an incredibly mobile quarterback. So if they use him differently, maybe they get more out of him. And I'm sure they're going to try after they brought him in here.
You know who doesn't want Kenny Pickett? It seems like the vets. According to some reports, the vets want Flacco, and they want Flacco to start, which makes sense, right? What is you guys' thoughts on the vets voicing their opinion for Mr. Flacco?
So I would just start it by saying, like, I saw this report, and I know that the word was Miles and the vets want Flacco. It's a little general for me. We've already heard from Deontay Johnson, who said, like, I think we're going to roll with Kenny, and I'm happy with him. I would not be shocked though if this was true, although it just didn't mention many names, that the vets would want Flacco because he's a known commodity to them, and they have played with him with some success before, and that's appealing to anyone when you're just familiar with something and you've seen it, and they've played against Kenny Pickett and been able to beat him. And so I could see why you just feel more comfortable, like we've won with this guy, we haven't won with this guy but beat him on the contrary. And so it makes sense. And then the rookies, like, I don't think any veterans are ever like, yeah, give me some late round day 2 and 3 rookies to play quarterback for me. Like, nobody is going to get excited about that. I would bet a lot of them weren't excited with even some of the rookies that have succeeded from the later rounds in the past. It's just so rare that I would be shocked if they did not feel like Flacco would give them the best chance to win and Pickett would come next. What I would say is, just because they feel that way doesn't mean when they see these practices happen and things unfold that they'll continue to feel that way.
I agree.
I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here. So we all know him since 2019 when Joe Flacco left the Ravens. Ever since then, he is 7-19. 5 of those wins were with the Browns. Okay,
Cleveland.
five wins with the Browns. Don't get me wrong. He brought an atmosphere to Cleveland that was amazing, and everybody loved it. And we're gonna thrive on that for forever, probably until this year, until when he turns to crap. And then everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, why did we bring him back?" Because it's the Cleveland mentality,
Yeah.
Chad likes to call it. That's
And
exactly what it's going to happen. And then everybody's going to hate Joe Flacco. Remember, guys, he's a 40-year-old vet that fell asleep on a bench. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that was
because they were up by
the common
30, so he's
denominator.
bored.
Right. I get that, but what I'm saying is don't get your hopes up for Joe Flacco this year. It's going to be good for a little while. He might win a couple games, but when he falls off, this Cleveland fan base is going to go insane.
They're just going to wonder, like, what happened? How is this happening? And I totally agree with you. It's also worth mentioning, not only was he 7-19 since leaving the Ravens. 2 things are worth mentioning. Before he left the Ravens, his play had fallen off pretty significantly. And if you look at like his year-by-year stats, he had a great start to his Ravens career, but the last couple of years he was with the Ravens, his like PFF grades, for example, were beginning to slip, and he was beginning to have less consistent play. And it was part of the reason that the Ravens decided to draft a quarterback and move on. The other thing worth bringing on is, in that 7 wins that Joe Flacco has had since 2019, which is 6 years, only one of those wins was against a team with a winning record, and it was while their quarterback was injured. So he hasn't beaten a good team in
Chad, don't say that, man. You're gonna ruin
7
people's
years.
hearts. You're spitting facts right now. Why are you spitting facts?
I know people are gonna hate that, and like I hate not just like being gung ho about Joe Flacco, and I'm not even saying like we shouldn't expect he can't beat a winning team. He could, yeah, he probably has the capability. He hasn't had a ton of games, and he hasn't had a lot of consistency. But I think it's worth tempering your expectations, because for that chunk of time when he went 4-1 for Cleveland or whatever, 5-1, he didn't. The only team with a winning record he beat was the Texans, and they were sitting CJ Stroud and playing Davis Mills, who's terrible. And then he beat teams like the Jets, the Jaguars, maybe the Raiders. He just beat bad teams. And so
yes,
I think if you have him out there, what we know about him is he may be able to sneak a win against a good team, but he is likely to only be able to beat the bad teams. So for these teams that are like, if we get Joe Flacco out there, well, we can win 10 games. Like, anything is possible, but that is not my expectation. Yeah. I'm with Mike. My expectation is he can hold a steady offense and be a steady presence and occasionally help you win the games you should win, but he's not getting them anywhere.
I want to hit 2 comments really quick. Ian on YouTube says, will there be a recap of these takes week 17? Ian, yes, there will be. We
says 17 or week 1.
We were wrong and where we were right.
Oh, week 1. Oh, yeah. These takes week 1. We're going to do it we're actually going to do one here soon. about what
Mhm.
we were wrong about. We're not afraid to admit our losses here. If we're wrong, we're wrong. We'll admit it. But we lose just like the Cleveland Browns do sometimes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're not perfect. And then James says, Chad, you're breaking my little heart.
I mean,
I'm so sorry.
why is it that you guys are just like, I've been saying this since the beginning when I said Kenny Pickett has a chance to start. You guys are saying, no way, Joe Flacco. I'm like, I seen all that. What Chad was saying is exactly what I said, but I just said
Listen,
Kenny Pickett work.
why do you
I'm
think
not-
Miles Garrett's here?
Why?
It ain't because of
he
Kenny
got
Pickett, dude.
he
It's
got
not because of Kenny
26 He got
Pickett.
$20 million
No way in hell
guaranteed.
it's
I mean,
because of
that's
Kenny
why he's
Pickett.
here.
No, I agree, but
No,
it's
yes.
not because of Kenny Pickett.
Okay, so what you're saying
If you
is
bring
that-
Joe Flacco back,
yeah,
let's run
no.
this shit,
So
and then we're
what
going to
you're
make a
saying-
good year happen.
So what you're
Try
saying
it.
is AB sat down with him and say, listen, this is the plan, Miles. We're going to first trade for Kenny Pickett, and then we're going to wait 3 weeks, and then we're going to sit down with Joe Flacco, sign him. So that was the plan? Like,
That's
I think
exactly
he
what
said something a little bit
gonna-
more like, "How would you like to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the
Yes,
game?"
but I'm
And
not,
he's like,
yeah, he didn't bring up Kenny Pickett like, yeah, we're going to bring Kenny Pickett in here, the guy that can't throw
No.
a freaking touchdown. Let's bring that guy
he's
in.
got a
Miles,
couple
you happy with
touchdowns.
that? You
I mean,
excited?
I don't think
for
Miles
that?
would be happy with either, but like I said, I see why he feels comfortable with Flacco. But he did speak out about the Browns not being able to control the ball and having too many turnovers during 2023, and we know that is one of Flacco's issues, just not as bad as Jameis, unfortunately.
Yeah,
James,
and
I
yeah.
have not gotten a little hands yet, James, or I would have clapped those things like crazy right now.
So
They're coming. They're coming.
So someone brought up the fact that Flacco was benched for Richardson in Indy, and I'm going to defend Flacco in this aspect. It's because Indy was not running the same system Kevin runs here, and Kevin runs and I know a lot of people don't understand this. Kevin runs a very quarterback friendly system. Once he finds a quarterback that knows how to run his system.
Yeah.
By the way, this quarterback doesn't need to be passing for 4,000 yards. He doesn't need that type of quarterback. He needs a quarterback that's smart, that knows how to take care of the ball. And by the way, there's 2 of those guys on the roster right now, and they're young, and they're going to be under very friendly contracts. So if there's anyone that we want to succeed, it could either be the 2 young guys we have on this roster, because they're going to be very cheap for the next 3 to 4 years.
He has
That's
an
what I'm
offensive
thinking.
design that's based on if a quarterback can read a defense and make good decisions, you can succeed.
Raul says Kenny does have more Super Bowl rings than Garrett.
That's true.
That's a crappy comment, man. Come on.
Speaking of young quarterbacks, one of our young quarterbacks are on the negotiation list for the Toronto Argonauts.
Ralph
CFL.
There you go, Raul. There you go, Raul.
There you go.
You commented on it earlier in the show.
So he is.
What do you guys make of this?
He is on the trajectory to be playing in Canada. Where
he's not on a trajectory for that. That is unknown as of right now. There's a possibility.
There's a possibility. I don't think he will.
There's a possibility Kenny Pickett could be there next year too. Angel, how do you feel about that, apples?
I doubt it. I think Kenny Pickett is just that type of guy that hangs around the NFL as a backup. So long.
Colt McCoy.
I just think Colt McCoy. As soon as I thought of guys like Colt McCoy or.
So I think this is interesting, and it's good for the Toronto to pick him up because of multiple reasons. One, I actually think if given time, and this is why I don't want to rush this kid in there, because I think he's going to need more time than the Twitter people view him as. I think he's going to need time to develop his footwork. I think he's going to need time to develop his reading and what he sees on the offense when he's in live play. He's going to need time. So I'm hoping the Browns are patient with him, because I don't want to ruin this kid. But I do think if there is an opportunity for him to go to Canada, which I don't think he will, I think he can tear that league up, and that'll help their jersey sales up there for sure.
No, let's not talk about jersey sales, dude. Nobody gives a crap about jersey sales.
Wait a second. You guys
Somebody
when he got
because...
drafted. You guys see when he got the number 1. Everyone posted about it. He didn't even play a league. He didn't play a down in league. People say, "Look, in Shador Sanders, the number 1 rookie." He said, "Like, okay, so we're gonna bring that." Now you don't want to bring it up when it's a good.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying he was the number 1 draft pick 3 weeks prior to the draft, and then plummeted.
He wasn't. He was.
Yes, he was. Shador Sanders.
Hey, Ken, and let me talk to you about something real quick. And I'm working on something. This is a guy named Avery. He's a quarterback coach of a guy that we shall not be named. And did you know?
Oh, we're talking about that guy that's going to be named here in a little bit.
Did you know?
Did
you know that he said that if Shador didn't have his Sanders at the end of his name, he would not be a first-round pick. He would be a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick. And where did Shador land?
Who said that?
Quincy Avery.
Quincy
He's been
Avery.
pretty critical. He said he's
Yeah.
also mentioned like he had like Pat Shurmur as a offensive coordinator, but they didn't teach him NFL stuff, and that his dad, being the head coach, didn't put him in the best position,
He didn't.
and is kind of like too much of a me guy to have helped him succeed to the fullest, and so that's pretty critical stuff. But
The thing is, like, is there some truth in that though? Because
No,
you can
you're a half-assed
see that
quarterback coach.
Well, he's coached Jalen Hurts. He has coached Jordan Love. He's coached some pretty good quarterbacks.
He's adjusted those quarterbacks to their play that they're supposed to be playing, not Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson not listening?
Are they good quarterbacks?
Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback.
Jordan Love a good quarterback?
Jordan Love, he's coming into his sophomore year.
Would you take Jordan Love?
Would I take Jordan Love right now?
Yeah.
So my cousin just from Iowa came here just now, and I hate talking about Jordan Love with him because he's like, I told him he's ass, and he's like, no, he's not. He's gonna be great. He keeps on sending me YouTube videos of Jordan Love just lighting it up, and I'm like, dude.
I think every Cleveland Browns fan but you would take Jordan Love.
What about CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud.
Yeah, he was
had a horrible sophomore year, did he not?
Yeah, no.
We're gonna we can argue a sophomore year.
Sophomore slump, but listen.
I think his point is Quincy Avery has coached some good quarterbacks,
and he's evaluated some good quarterbacks. So he's evaluating the current quarterback we have on our roster, and he's saying he's not ready for the league because of his footwork. By the way, even Scout said that. He's saying that he holds the ball for 9.6 seconds, which, by the way, the league average is 2.96 seconds, which the league you should hold it for 2.6 seconds. So he's saying he's slow. He's a slow processor. By the way, Kevin doesn't want a slow processor. So what I'm saying, I'm not saying this to hate on Sanders. I'm saying the reason why he was playing on the side makes sense during OTAs and minicamp because maybe he hasn't caught up yet. And that's what I'm saying. Like, let's be realistic. Like, I'm not hating on Shador. I want Mike. It was a Saturday afternoon show, and I said Shador will be great with Kevin. Did I not say that even before the draft happened? I did. I said, but the issue is going to be we're going to have to take our time with him. And my worst fear, because I see it all the time. I'm seeing it all the time. He needs to start week 1. No, that would be the worst mistake that we do for this kid. Worst mistake. And by the way, I have Dylan in front of Sanders too. But go ahead.
Did I not say that he'd be here by week 4, 5, maybe 6?
I hope not. For that kid's sake, I'm
not ready for that prediction yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, so he's planning on coming into camp to compete, though, and they keep talking about it as a 4 quarterback competition, even though Sanders was not really in it in the mini camps. They keep talking about it like it will be a 4 quarterback competition. Right now, he's in Miami,
working
spending
hard.
his vacation working with Daryl Colbert, who is his personal quarterback coach. There was a point of time where I thought he might end up with Quincy Avery as a quarterback coach. I've always liked what's his name?
Bill Callahan.
He's the brother of he's Jordan Palmer. I've always liked Jordan Palmer because I think Jordan Palmer has coached and improved some really good quarterbacks. But there is that handful of like 6 guys who coach each a handful of NFL quarterbacks apiece who have worked with these guys in the off season when they can't be with the team to help them get better. I did think he might end up with Quincy for a little while, but he is with the same quarterback coach who's currently working privately with Cam Ward. And I know the two of them have worked together with this guy as well, but he's down in Miami kind of grinding away with the idea of coming into camp, trying to swing early and get himself into this competition. And
there's one thing that I can't take away from that kid, man. That kid's a hard worker, man. I love seeing him work hard, and he's working like he's not. I even think if he would have been the 5th pick, he still would have worked this hard. He's just a naturally born worker, and I love that about him.
He's kind of a goofy, friendly, like playful personality. So I think people just relate that as him being like class clownish. But then he's always grinding. So
I'm gonna say it. I hope Shador Sanders comes in here throwing balls as fast as he drives, and the receivers can catch him. That's what I want to see. I'm not gonna BS you guys. I'd like to see the underdog come in and annihilate everybody's.
The underdog's Dylan
everybody's-
Gabriel. Let's be real. The underdog's Dylan
Yeah.
Gabriel.
No, he's the quiet one. That's
Yeah,
he's like the
underdog.
ninja in the background right now that nobody knows about.
They call that the underdog.
He's just a ninja in the background.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the really short ninja in the background.
Okay. Yes. Oh, you want to bring up? That's a different.
He's
show.
as tall as Chad is.
By the
Chad,
way,
would you be a quarterback?
No,
if you
he's,
guys ever
he's
wanna
taller
do,
than me.
If you guys want
He's
to
5'8".
if you guys,
No, he's like 5'11".
he's
No, he's
like
not.
5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, he's 5'11".
Yeah. By the way, if you guys ever want to do a whole separate show about the Quincy Avery and Deion Sanders beef, I'm your guy. I'm your guy. I know
Okay.
how it started. I know when it started, and I know probably why Sanders didn't go with Quincy as his quarterback coach, just because it starts with his dad.
People giving away our secrets. We will do that.
Yeah,
I like that.
after the comments, I'm not shocked. Mike, I can't believe you didn't know this. This is how big the narrative have gotten with Dylan Gabriel being so short. Is that he measured at the combine 5'11" and an eighth, and Mike
now he's
thinks
5'7".
5'8". Yeah, Mike thinks he's 5'8" because like
Well, I'm 6'6". Everybody looks short
he
to me.
gets
Come
lumped
on.
as short so much
Yep.
that people are just getting the perception that he's shrinking. He's literally like just
He
an
shrinks
inch shorter
every
than a lot of these like other NFL quarterbacks.
Also, too, just to let you know, I just told Mike this stat on the phone. In the 2023 season of college football, it was. Let me pull this up. By that way, I actually got this sent to me, and I actually had to make sure it was right. But as far as balls batted down, it was 3.1% for Dylan Gabriel. Do you know what Shedeur Sanders' percentage was at last year? I'll give you a clue.
2.8.
Yeah. How did you know? 2.8.
Oh.
Did you really guess that? That's incredible.
No. I told him. More to
Oh, it's like,
Oh, do you want to know what Dylan's was?
3.1.
3.2.
Yeah, it was 3.1. Yeah, it was 3.1.
Oh,
so
I
they're
guess
not
his
far
height.
off.
I got that wrong.
So my point is this: if you're going to complain about Dylan getting batted balls down, Shedeur has a just as much percentage chance of it happening. On to the wide receiver talk. Yes, we're going to talk wide receivers because it's.
We did that last week. Why not do it again?
And while we're at it, how about one more quarterback?
Yeah, and add a quarterback in there.
This son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You had to bring it. So we haven't talked about Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry. In about
in the quarterback.
4 or 5 weeks, it's been.
I thought we talked about him
realistically.
last week.
Don't stop it.
No. Oh yeah, we didn't.
We were on a streak.
Was catching balls from Mr. Deshaun Watson. Now, a lot of people are going to say, "Why is this news?" Well, Dr. Chad will explain to you. Why is this news, Chad?
So I think this was just popped up in my head because it wasn't really about Deshaun. I'm not shocked he's throwing. With this surgery, he's probably throwing months ago. At least even in the boot, he was probably throwing a little. What I thought was interesting was I was trying to figure out what the heck happened to David Bell. I know he had that hip injury, and I know he was recovering, and I'm always trying to look up surgery and rehab news. And because he's such a quiet player and he hasn't been much of an impact in the league, it's not as public or media covered of a topic as others. And the only thing I could find out about him was during the mini camps when he wasn't out there, he was actually in the facility catching balls from Watson. And the reason I thought that was significant was because a lot of people have asked, we have so little depth at the position, and especially at slot receiver, that who do we have coming into camp? This made me think that probably if he's running routes and catching passes full speed during his rehab process now, he's probably going to be full contact by the time we have in camp. And I know people aren't very excited about him, but when he's had a little bit of an opportunity, he's not very explosive, but he is consistent. He can catch the ball, and he just tends to be a guy who can run a good route and catch the ball, and that may be worth that final spot on the roster if he can get himself out there. So I thought it was probably worth noting that he's actually still around. He's catching balls. I heard less about Michael Woods, but that gives us just one more name in the pile of what we think would be between 5 and 6 total receivers on this roster.
I'll end that real quick. David Bell, which could run routes, and he's fast. Getting passes thrown to him by a quarterback that's probably going to somehow wind up on the PUP list. We hope. because we're all saying we have 4
Most likely.
quarterbacks. I just don't think it's realistic. Yes, he's out there throwing passes. That's great. But earn your money, dude, and just move along. I don't want Deshaun Watson, this cancer, on this team. And I don't know
I
if
love
you
how
guys
Mike
disagree
doesn't
with
want
that.
to talk about Deshaun, and then we bring up a story about David Bell, and he's like, "Let's get into Deshaun."
But look, the guy that's thrown to him. So I'm bringing
Yeah.
up.
Well, it's the
Chad,
only
there
guy
was
who
a-
can throw to him because they're in rehabbing together, and they're not allowed out on the field.
Yeah, I agree. But Chad, there was a graphic you wanted to bring up for the next one. Do I have that? Is that in our?
Oh, that was the
thing?
dogs graphic, I believe.
Yeah,
I
this is
thought
the
he
dogs
put it on
graphic
there.
where
Hold on a
they
second.
mentioned us.
And while you guys look for that, I do want to say about David Bell. I have a soft spot in my heart for him because I feel that he can be a good possession receiver for us, which obviously is what we need. He's always had good hands. I sent it to you, Mike. He's always had good hands. The issue is again, it's his health. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I
and
know
that's
he's
not something
AB's
I
guy too,
expected.
so it's like just man, and it's this fluke injury of the hip. It's like, can this compound of many other things? Like, how is he going to prove himself with a limited time that he's had?
Yeah, and it's tough because like when they drafted him, I wasn't excited. They drafted him like around the time they drafted Dylan Gabriel, like way at the end of the 3rd round, around 90 something, like 97th or something like that. I think he was a compensatory pick. And that is not generally where you're going to get a good receiver. You typically get your best receivers in the first 2 rounds, particularly in the top 50. Those are, if you look at the good receivers in the league, and I know somebody's going to bring up like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, that happens occasionally, pretty rarely. If you look at the top 30 receivers in the league, especially in their first 3 or 4 years in the league, they're typically first rounders, occasionally second rounders. But I just saw him as like, well, they went with a guy that just doesn't have much upside athletically, but he can just be a steady guy. I kind of thought similar to like Higgins, who can just be on this team for 4 or 5 years and be their 4th or 5th receiver all the time. And because of injuries, he was never able to be that. So I never expect him to develop into a top 3 receiver. But what I had hoped for him when they picked him was he was like the last receiver on the board that I really knew about. And I was like, he could just be their steady Hollywood Higgins. Like, I'm on the team. I'll always just be there for depth. And he just has not been able to stay on the field, which is a bummer.
Yeah, I agree. It sucks.
So moving on to one more receiver who could also, be a steady presence for this team.
That would be Dante Johnson and his role. Chad brought this up on X actually, and it got a lot of looks from a lot of people. And then it got a mention from the Dogs podcast saying, "Oh, you know what? We never really realized this, but I know we said Johnson could play the slot for us, but he's never really played this slot."
And I think it's funny because I commented back to them and I was like, there's no reason for fans not to think that because everybody in the media, like they were going off of this came up in a post from Zach Jackson of The Athletic, who basically said Deontay Johnson is like the obvious player. I'm paraphrasing. He's the obvious player to start for the Browns at the slot. And then a ton of people commented like, yeah, he's a great slot receiver. And all of these comments are about him being a good slot receiver. And I just quote tweeted it and was like, Deontay Johnson, like I've been watching Deontay Johnson play for the Steelers for 4 years. He didn't play in the slot at all. Like he doesn't play in the slot. And I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying he doesn't. So where does this narrative coming from that he is like the perfect slot receiver because he's been playing outside receiver like almost exclusively, and that led to the Dogs posting this graphic showing that 86% of his snaps in the last 5 years have been outside and only 14% have been inside. And for what I didn't realize too is when they put up the comparison of some of the other players, I was surprised to see that those players had played so much in the slot. Like
That's
so,
what I was about to say. I'm surprised Jerry Jeudy is like almost half and half.
And I knew Jeudy. Denver played Jeudy in the slot a lot because I listened to Matt Harmon on Reception Perception. It is a great analysis of wide receivers in the NFL. If you guys haven't heard it, he posts like literally like success by every route run and the amount that the receivers run each of those routes, and it gives you a really good idea of when a guy's misused. and he showed Jerry Judy's, and it's just one of those things where you laugh and you're like, if these numbers are available to the team, why was Denver using him this way? Because it's pretty obvious they weren't having him do the things he's absolutely best at. So for me, I knew he played a lot in the slot, and that's not where he thrives. So I wouldn't want him in the slot a lot. But they do like to move receivers around, especially if you're not an X. And sometimes you're in the slot, sometimes you're out of the slot for matchups. So that one didn't surprise me a lot, although I would have never guessed 50-50. I would have thought it would have been like 60-40 at most. The one that shocked me is Tillman. Holy cow, this guy is like a drawn X receiver. He's the exact build size of an outside receiver and like a big one. And the fact that he's playing more than twice as much slot as Deontay Johnson has should give people pause into assuming Deontay Johnson is not competing for that outside spot.
I wonder if they can interchange, like considering how much they pay Dante Johnson, if they can limit his opportunities and when they basically
What were you going to say?
create different looks, right? So you can have Judy in the slot, Johnson outside, and Tillman outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have a bigger guy according to with matchups, depending on teams you play. So you have Judy inside, so he's a taller receiver on the slot and faster. Or we got a big guy on one side and quicker, smaller guy on the other.
It's kind of surprising because
Judy's
Judy's such a good route runner. I would have thought he would excel in the slot. He just doesn't. But
I would be interested to see how much percentage of the time was he in the slot last year, and if that slot and outside receiver percentage went up according to last year, because if that shows you how, because again, Andrew Berry and Kevin scouted him and they ran after him when he was available, and then they signed him to an extension before he even played the field because they knew what they wanted to do with him. So I wonder if they saw, wow, look, Denver's playing him in the slot, and they shouldn't even be playing this dude in the slot as much. Let's play him in the outside where he's going to be better at. And they made that adjustment, and look what year he made.
And especially after Cooper, I think after Cooper left, he became a very exclusive outside receiver, and I think that helped him. And I just want to point this out. I have no doubt. There's no doubt or reason for me to believe Deontay Johnson cannot play the slot. I just think it's mostly weird that we've just assumed he's automatically the slot because if he outplays Tillman or Tillman doesn't continue to progress or stay healthy, he could end up playing outside. I just think it's weird where it's like we're automatically locking Tillman, who's done almost nothing in the NFL, because he's our guy, I assume, on the outside, and Deontay in the slot. Maybe they're interchangeable, but I do think you see a guy, he's 5'10" at receiver, and you go, okay, he's not 6 foot slot receiver. I think that happens a lot, and I think that's what might have happened. I'd say the same about Elijah Moore. If you look at the numbers, Elijah Moore is much better outside than the slot, but because he's shorter, he gets put in the slot a lot, and I think that did him no favors here.
That's a huge thing too, because you obviously seen the graphic. Thank you for the dogs for posting that, but there's no way, realistically, I see that happening. To be honest, I don't. He's a guy that has speed. This is even if he makes the team.
I have one more point too.
The first round,
we're going to be playing so much less slot than we used to. Like everybody should be ready for the Browns to play a lot more 12 personnel. And you guys have mentioned 22. I'll have to wait till I see that. But I think playing 11 personnel is obviously a giant part of the game. It's going to happen, but it's not going to happen to the extent that it happened last year when you had the breakdown of players that you had out on the field last year. I just don't believe there's going to be 3 receiver sets to nearly the percentage that it was last year. So get ready for that's why I think like maybe Deontay Johnson's just rotating with Tillman and Judy in 2 receiver sets. I think that's very realistic. And then when they throw out 3 receivers, maybe one of those guys rest and Jamari Thrash comes in for a series. Like who knows?
My guy.
Like don't count that out.
You're going to see a lot of trips bunch as well. 3 tight ends out there, maybe 2.
And they love his quickness, so I wouldn't be shocked if he's competing for those slot reps.
Yes. Let's move on. We got about 10 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. This is Angels too. I was going to give it to him, but No, we didn't lose them.
But
I'm just trying
I'll
to
bring it up because I'm
check on
the
some
one that
things.
originally was curious about it. I just thought it was such a weird thing. So we all know that the stadium's getting built. The Haslams got granted their $600 million. It's going to come from bonds, so they're eventually going to pay it back. So everybody don't panic. What I thought was interesting is as the case was going into court, the the state of Ohio voted and changed the Ohio leadership changed the verbiage in the Art Modell law, which was the only thing the general verbiage of the Art Modell law was the only thing that the city of Cleveland or Cuyahoga County had as even a potential lawsuit against the Browns moving. And we've talked about this before on the show to exhaustion. They were never going to win this lawsuit. But the reason the case even could exist was because of the verbiage was so broad, and which was such a silly thing to do. Before the case could even get done, the state just changed the verbiage. Do you guys have any problem with that? Or to me, because they changed it to what it was actually intended to mean, does that change it at all?
I don't think it changed it. I think they should have kept it. I figured out the problem, Mike.
Angel sounds so
Yeah,
amazing now.
I sound better now. This is what you get when you rush on because you're rushing.
I get
But
it, I
anyways,
get
did you guys
You're
read
rushing.
a proposed change to the law would
Mhm.
redefine elsewhere to meaning outside the state, potentially facilitating the Browns move within Ohio, which is smart because you're just moving. I mean, for those that are never been to Cleveland or never been to the stadium, it's literally a 15-minute ride down one freeway. Just drive, well, a couple
To get to
freeways,
Cleveland from the new stadium?
but yeah, from
It's
Cleveland to
literally
New
one
Stadium.
highway exit.
Yeah,
71,
You
right?
drive
You're
down-
just
Yeah, just one.
Listen, literally, you could drive down Engle Road to Brook Park, make a right, you're in Cleveland.
Yeah, literally.
The land was literally annexed to Brook Park.
Yeah, that's a
Cleveland
shame, by
gave
the
away
way.
the land.
Yeah, now
Right.
now Brook Park's like, thank you.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
So yeah,
Nope,
so for
biggest
them
benefits.
and to them to change that verbiage and allow them to get there, I appreciate it because if it was based upon verbiage,
Yeah.
sure.
And I
yeah,
think this
mean
fits
that's why
more
they
of what
pay
they meant. They
lawyers
never
to be
meant
smart.
you can't move the team anywhere. They meant you can't take our team away like Art Modell did. That's why it's the Art Modell law, because they're like, we don't ever want this situation to happen again. Like the Haslams used this law to keep the Columbus Crew in Columbus because the owner was going to move them to Texas. And if you're going to move the team outside of the state, you have to put it up for sale first. And it was meant so that you couldn't move the team away. Now, I thought it should be more like you're not allowed to move the team like more than 50 miles away, or you're not allowed to move the city out of the metropolitan area, or
Maybe
almost like
Cuyahoga County.
TV. Like county's tough because like what if there's Lake County? Like, it for me, and you're thinking of not just the Browns, you're thinking of every team in the state. You want them to be able to move still within their like fan base. So like
Yeah.
if you move a team from Columbus to, I don't know, like Pickerington, like they're still a Columbus team, right?
That's like Columbus, yeah. But
they
Raul, man,
purposely
dude,
said the
no.
state of Ohio. Do you guys think that was because of the Browns? Because I don't. I think they said within Ohio, knowing that the Browns were going to
Cincinnati.
Brook Park. I think they didn't want Cincinnati to be able
Smart.
to move 5 miles
Kentucky.
over the river to Kentucky and lose all of that Ohio income
Yeah.
if the Bengals, who are also
I
in
didn't
the
think
stadium,
about
moved. So
That's smart.
They
Yeah, I didn't
actually
think about
just
that.
signed a 5-year lease, I think.
Yeah,
Cincinnati Bengals.
yeah.
just signed a new lease
After they changed the proposal, I
Yeah.
believe.
But I think
Right,
the
right.
issue was if the Bengals ever move, there's not a
Nothing.
lot of areas for them to move. They'll probably move into Kentucky, and then Ohio loses all that revenue. So I think instead of saying like, because what if my idea was like, oh, you can't move more than 50 miles or outside of that metropolitan area, Kentucky would still have allowed the Bengals to move there because that's still within the Cincinnati fan base and metro area and within 50 miles. So I feel like they changed it specifically to Ohio, knowing that the Browns were safe and now the Bengals are safe too. But it's really, I thought it was just kind of funny that they changed it.
Kentucky
with that specific
Bengals.
word. Yeah, I like the wording better. I honestly think it
Yeah.
matches more. I liked mine better, but I would never, if I'm the state of Ohio, I would never let the Bengals to Kentucky. You lose so much if that happens.
Yep.
I agree.
On to the next topic.
Kentucky. James.
That's funny. Madden ratings versus PFF graphics. See, more graphics for you guys, more ratings, more charts.
Enjoying the graphics. Sorry, it's so much
Enjoy it.
Mike, but
so let's pull up the Madden ratings for the Browns. Madden rating has the Browns at an 87, I believe. Right?
And I'm cool because we are what, the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Guys, look how high we are in the Madden rating.
It's the beta ratings, but I have to say, like, it to me, it's kind of fun to see them that high. Like, it makes me feel a little better.
Washington.
It makes me feel a little better about the overall talent we have on the team. We know they're not going to land as the ace best team because they don't have a good enough quarterback.
You don't know that
to be the ace best team. You don't know that.
Yeah, we
okay. I know that.
We don't know
that. I know that. But what I think is interesting is this is more like a PFF thing where it's based on the whole roster and how much talent is there, and it's not based on how you'll actually finish. But I mean, this feels awfully optimistic to me. They because must be very high on the young guys.
You got Green Bay below us. You got Minnesota below us.
Yeah, the Super Bowl winner is right below us. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
insane.
Come on, like let's be realistic.
That is insane.
We can go position by position with the Eagles, and there is no way it's with more than like one position group better than theirs.
And it's weird because I've been looking. I'm a nerd lately. I've been comparing Browns because there's a lot of connection with Andrew Berry in Philadelphia. So I've been kind of like trying to see if Andrew Berry's trying to match some things, and Philadelphia is right behind us. And I thought that's funny because Philadelphia should be actually in front of Kansas City because of what happened last year.
They did lose some talent in this offseason, but give me a break. This is a very good team and
these are beta ratings. We could make these alpha ratings if the Browns come and show up this year.
Yeah. Okay, let's compare that to the. Oh, go ahead.
Raul says,
more like
Tecmo Bowl ratings.
Let's move along here. PFF graphics.
James.
What does PFF tell us? Oh wow, dude!
PFF has us rated the 32nd best roster in the league.
so we went from
fifth
to dead last.
To dead last, yeah.
And here's what's funny. I also don't think this is true. Like, how you think the Browns have the worst roster in football? There's no friggin' way that every other team in the NFL has a better overall roster than us. Of course, we had a terrible year last year, but so much of that came down to injuries and the quarterback play. There's no way you can convince me before this season starts that we are the 32nd team. My question to you, and the reason I thought it was interesting to compare, first of all, this is all based on the projections of the rookies and the PFF ratings of the players last year, which is why I don't think we're 32nd, because we had a lot of players for a lot of reasons involving injury, coaching, all these things, who had a very bad year last year. And I do not think anyone should expect that to repeat. My big question to you guys is, who's closer? Madden or PFF?
I'm gonna go first, Angel. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with Madden only because our biggest strength in 2024 is our defensive line. I agree to that. Our biggest weakness in 2024 is the entire offense. I do not agree to that. And for you to say the entire offense is a negative when you're going to make the X factor Deontay Johnson, get out of here. Come on. Just lose that.
I would agree with that in terms of Judy. He's always underwhelmed me, but there's no ignoring the fact that he is a great player in Njoku. The offensive line has so much reason to bounce back. You have a guy that everybody believes in running the ball. Like, the entire offense you think is, and again, it was a weakness of 2024. That's true, but we're looking forward to 2025, and I just don't agree. But go ahead, Angel. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I didn't finish yet. Hold on. Rookies to watch for: Quinshon Judkins, and I do believe that. I think he should have been the X factor of all of this, as well as their projecting lineup is kind of it's fair to be assessed.
I think the X factor is Kenny Pickett.
That's it. I'm ending the show, guys. We'll see you next
If
week.
he's any
Tuesday.
good, we will be much better. Even if he's average,
I want to
even if
tell you
he's
guys
Jacoby
something.
Brissett,
We will be much
better.
This is why it's so confusing for Browns fans. You want Kenny Pickett to be good so you can be a winner right away. Even if he plays good enough to win and then slowly tapers off and then bring in one of the young guys who's ready, it's a win-win.
I want Dylan to be good. Go Dylan.
Me too. I want Dylan too. I'm secretly rooting for Dylan.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, no matter what quarterback is good at camp, that's the guy that I want to see. Genuinely.
I agree with you.
Whether it be Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Kenny Pickett.
That's how we should feel. You're right. That's
we know Joe Flacco.
Right. That's the right thing. We shouldn't be like, I want Sanders no matter what. Like, we should watch camp, watch joint practices more than preseason, but also maybe a little preseason will tell us something.
And that means you're going to watch preseason this year, Chad?
I am. Like I said, I hate preseason. This year I have to watch it. There's too many rookies, too many young guys, too many unknowns. But the big thing will be when we have joint practices, we know the guys who play a lot in joint practice don't play in preseason. And we have 2 joint practices, which is why I won't put a lot into preseason, but I'm very curious about the young guys. Like Dylan Gabriel will play some preseason, and so will Harold Fannin, and I want to see that.
Yeah.
Jabari Thrash will probably play preseason again, and I want to see that.
Oh, man,
but
I can't wait.
But what I would say is, for me, I'll just go second. I actually think probably PFF is closer. 8 just seems ridiculous to me. I would expect our roster and like team to be somewhere in the 20s. I definitely don't think 32, but I see us as a team right now in the 20s. I do not know how PFF got us to 8, and I definitely don't know how, or PFF got us to 32, and I definitely don't know how Madden got us to 8. But I'm leaning towards us being probably closer to the 20s than the 10s.
Yeah, I'm leaning closer to between 15 to have a great season and 20 to be like, we improved.
Would be a little closer to Madden.
Yeah. So I would say I'm going to go with PFF. I hate the fact that they have us rated 32. I agree with Chad. I think there's maybe 4 to 5.
Almost disrespectful.
Yeah. I hate that. But I'm going to have to go with it anyways. Either way, yeah, I'll go with that. 32, unfortunately. I do think we're better than 32. I do think we have better talent than last year. And again, it goes back to the 2 charts that we posted in the beginning of the show. Our third down percentage, conversion rate, and our interception ratio, our interception issues. If we can clean that up, that can take us into the teens, man. 15 to 19 rating this year. And I think you can get 6 to, I think our defense is good enough to get you 3 wins. And if our offense plays safe, and I think our offense is good enough to give us at least 4. So if you do 3 plus 4, that's 7. You give me 7 wins this season, I'll be happy with that.
I think if you give the Browns 7 wins, people will be to the moon because the expectation is
I'm not
so
going to
low.
say static.
I've seen early mock drafts that have us picking first.
Yeah, like, that's crazy. That's crazy. That is crazy. We're going to end the show here. First, I want to say our Tuscarawas Browns backers sent us something I just want to promote real quick. Hanford Dixon's autograph signing, August 10th, noon to 3, 20% off donated, 20% of sales donated to the Tuscarawas County Humane Society. Dogs will be on the patio for adoption. You get $20 and you get Hanford Dixon's autograph.
You guys know I'm a sucker for a dog adoption.
Yeah. So that's why when he sent me this, I said, hey, we'll put this on the show today. It's also on our page. I sent it on our WhatsApp site, on our cabinet, if you want to share it on X, Chad.
I will.
Yeah. So go make some time for this from noon to 3. You can meet Hanford and maybe you can bring home a dog. And then
great cause.
Yeah, great cause.
Great way
for sure.
to get dogs. I donate
That's
to
my
the,
birthday.
to the
Is it?
Humane Society.
You can go get you a dog.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah,
happy
birthday.
birthday.
But...
a puppy.
No.
We do a similar thing with our Browns backers here. It's called Dogs for Dogs, and it's collaborated with the San Diego Humane Society also. And fans could come in, watch the game with us, and then there's a bunch of just great pups for adoption. So that's awesome. Closing out, I just want to say one more thing though too is everybody just be aware. We will all post it all over our social medias to make sure you guys know we may be moving our show next week to Wednesday. It's just pending. We're trying to put together a little collab for next week that if we
It's
get
actually a
it pulled
big
off, we'll
collab,
promote it.
but
Yeah, it's a pretty big
that would be
collab,
big
yeah.
for us. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not trying to be humble, but yeah, that would be a big collab for us.
Yeah, it's a
Stay
great.
humble.
I mean, we're trying to combine with an incredible long running fantasy show to go over some of the players on the Browns, not only as a fantasy show, but just because this show is so knowledgeable about the players coming into the league and they do so much study. It would be a great way to roll into camp with a little pre-camp uh boost on what you should be expecting from these guys. What are their strong points? How good might these rookies be? And I think that would just be incredible. So if we can pull it off, we'll make sure to let everybody know on the socials about the change.
Yep.
Not
Also,
only
I'll
that,
let you guys go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, our fantasy league for Bearded Browns should be starting up here again soon. I will send everybody that's on there now an email. If you want to join again this year, feel free.
It's free.
I think Angel's going to join this
I'm
year.
going to join. I haven't did a fantasy football in like 10 years, so
Chad refuses.
I'll be horrible at it. But I'm
Chad's
going
the
to
one that got
join
the guy.
just for the fun.
Chad's
Two dynasties are my limit. I love fantasy, but I cut all my redraft leagues. I'm in 2 dynasties, and that's so much that it's all I can handle with also doing this show. That's so much football.
I want to also add this week, Wednesday, tomorrow, I will be a guest host on Here We Go Brownies, 7 to 8 on all platforms. Me and Dustin, Dustin and I, he asked me to come on. Allie will be off. So I'm going to wear a blonde wig and try to match her as much as I can. I'm just joking.
She's so much better than you.
Wait,
yeah, she's going to be way better than me.
She's great. She is awesome. Sean Posey,
and then
you are like the negative of the Browns. I'm sorry. That
he's the Brown. I love him though. Thanks for the engagement on my
he
stuff.
He is great. He is great.
Fantasy is as big as ever.
Yeah. Right. Also too, Wednesday, Here We Go Brownies, and then Thursday I will be on Ray Show Dogs podcast. Sorry, I forgot the name.
Ray Show Dog Frisbee.
Yeah, Ray Show Dog Frisbee has a podcast.
Browns, Ultimate Fans Show.
Yeah, Ultimate Fan Show from 7 to 8 also. So Wednesday and Thursday from 7 to 8, I will be on those podcasts, guest hosting, and I will be repping the Bearded Browns podcast to the core. So tune in. I'll be sharing it on my feed on Facebook. I'll probably share it on X also. Tune in, chat with us, support the show, shout out us when you get in the chat. It's going to be a fun one for sure. I'm kind of nervous. I think this is the second time I've been on a podcast other than ours, so I'm excited for it.
For sure. But Chad's beard is getting bigger, so hopefully that will be some good luck for the Browns. We're hoping, right? Correct? Anybody?
I don't know. I usually chop this thing off during the summer and then just let it start from scratch. Game 1.
Hey, it's July, so you got plenty of time for you to grow that thing out.
Just got warm. Got warm here.
You know what? I'll close. I'll close on this. A question. I know the answer, but why is it that every time Shador throws a football, it gets aggregated in the X world and people just share it and just love it?
I will have an answer that I don't think you'll. So obviously he's very famous and he's very social media famous. I have noticed, very similar to the Baker phenomenon, I will see people pop on our X, and I'm having conversations, and I'm getting all of these pop-ins mid conversation, maybe we're talking about Shador, maybe we're not, just jumping in on Shador. I started just clicking on the profiles, which I don't always do, and the amount of times in the last 2 weeks I've seen Colorado Buffalo turned Browns fan, or Shador fan, or
interesting,
or somebody, their location is Colorado and they're post themselves as a Browns fan. I think so many of these people are not Browns fans, and there's so many people. I mean, generally the mass media, they love Shador. He's a big clickbait story, but I think the reason we're seeing so much interaction is similar to when all of these Oklahoma fans who maybe aren't that loyal to a particular team, but much more loyal to their college, just follow their guy. And all of a sudden, they don't want to talk Browns. They just want to talk Shador as a Brown. And if you don't immediately respond the way they want, even if it's not negative, even if it's just realistic, Shador, starts day one, and you're like, I just don't see that happening, and they blow up on
We'll
you.
see. Hopefully, he doesn't make a rap
Click
video
'em.
about it.
Click 'em.
Till then-
Speaking of
You'll
rap
see.
videos, Anthony Richardson from Indiana has one.
Stop it.
Indianapolis Colts, actually.
Does he
That's the
really?
guy that beat out Joe Flacco. I'll end it on that
yes.
note. Thank you for tuning in. Please continue to remind yourself every Tuesday we will be here 7:30 to 8:30 every week, except next week. Hopefully we'll be, if we have a collaboration on Wednesday. Appreciate the love, appreciate the comments. Like, follow, share on all the platforms where they're talking your ear off about our famous, lovely Browns. Until next week, appreciate you guys. Love you. Go Browns.
Go
Browns.
Go Browns.